At the turn of the 20th century, public transportation led the way in America. But private modes were coming on strong. The country was trying to transform from an agrarian to an urban society. Industrial technology was expanding, social reform was awakening, and people looked to broaden their horizons. But the major barriers to this social and industrial evolution were the roads. Roads linking cities and rural areas were a mess. They were rutted, muddy, dusty, and occasionally impassable. Roads were keeping America at a standstill. Between the giant cities in the Midwest, Detroit and Chicago, lay northern Indiana. And from this area, a young engineer working as a surveyor in Elkhart, Indiana, named Albert Rieth, had a vision. He saw the need to improve the roads, and better yet, the need for a company devoted solely to building these roads, to developing better materials and construction methods to realize the potential of American transportation, building roads to the future. Rieth Construction Company was created in 1916. And a legacy of innovation, hard work, and social awareness was begun. The first project of this new company was construction of a gravel road in Elkhart County that is now County Road 32. The value of this contract was $32,000, or over $700,000 in today's dollars. A plan to build a good road from coast to coast had been formally adopted in 1913, called the Lincoln Highway. Soon after the Lincoln Highway was begun, Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Aid Road Act of 1916, providing that $75 million to be apportioned to the states for highway projects. The Indiana General Assembly created the Indiana State Highway Commission shortly thereafter in 1917. In 1918, a friend of Rieth, George Riley, joined the company as a financial partner, a relationship that lasted 20 years. The die was cast, and the seeds of the company were firmly planted in the fertile soil of the upper Midwest. Rieth-Riley was now a reality. The end of World War I in 1918 resulted in a surge of automobile ownership and public demand for better roads. The Indiana State Highway Commission began letting contracts for new road-building projects throughout the state. In 1919, Rieth-Riley was awarded contract number 1 for a section of the Lincoln Highway in Elkhart County. This was the first section of the Lincoln Highway in Indiana, and the first federally assisted contract in the state. In the 1920s, the company continued to expand and began operations in Michigan. The first project in that state was a concrete road near Sawyer, Michigan, in Berrien County. The technology changed quickly during these early years. Initially, most of Rieth-Riley's roads were built with wheelbarrows, horse-drawn wheel scrapers, and other simple equipment. By the 1920s, the company had purchased concrete plants built on railroad cars for portability. Railroad tracks would be built along major construction projects for movement of materials. The materials would be hauled to the job site with Model T Ford trucks with bathtub bodies called whoopies. By the late 20s, crawler tractors, tractor-drawn scrapers, and engine-propelled pavers became standard equipment. The 1920s also brought the birth of the Indiana Association of Highway and Municipal Contractors. In 1926, Albert Rieth was the first president of IHC.
Our problem is to put to work 3.5 million employable persons, men and women, who are now on the relief roll. It is a problem quite as much for private industry as for the government.
During the Depression and war years of the 1930s and 40s, times were very lean. Not only did the investment in infrastructure cease, but supplies and equipment were equally hard to come by. Demand dropped off until the country's focus eventually turned to the war.
We have official announcements from the White House that Japanese airplanes have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and have now attacked Army and Navy bases in Manila.
Even with a shortage of equipment and fuel, the company did its part by constructing many projects to assist the war effort. In the midst of the war, the sudden and unexpected death of Albert Rieth in 1943 resulted in 3 of his children assuming the reins of the company: Blair, Lee, and Bill. Albert was remembered for integrity, honesty, straightforward talk, and fair dealing, attributes which have been faithfully handed down through the generations and continue to remain a company standard. The post-war boom was good for the country and the company, a lot due to the great investments made to build the interstate system under President Dwight Eisenhower. The company expanded its locations further into Michigan and continued to grow. During this time, the company won the first contract to construct the Indiana Toll Road in 1954. The company continued to seek new ideas and keep ahead of the curve. In 1960, the company invested over $600,000 in equipment with hydraulic drives, a new and innovative development for the time.
In '62, Rieth-Riley had about 29 asphalt plants. And mainly we were in the asphalt business. We did concrete work and dirt work and that type of thing, but mainly asphalt. In those days, and this is back in the early '60s, an asphalt plant would maybe run 40,000 tons of hot mix a year. Today, we've still got about 29 asphalt plants, but they run about 300,000 or 400,000 tons a year.
Our excessive dependence on OPEC has already taken a tremendous toll on our economy and our people. This is the direct cause of the long lines which have made millions of you spend aggravating hours waiting for gasoline.
The economy in the 1970s and early 80s was one of challenge for the construction industry. Inflation and the OPEC-led oil price increases led to sharp spending cuts. This led to Rieth-Riley further exploring new sources of revenue, such as airports. They constructed and improved many airports in Michigan during the early 70s. The company also expanded greatly into private and commercial products, notably paving the Ford Motor high-speed test track in Romeo, Michigan in 1972. This was the first foray into parabolic tracks. The completed project lasted almost 50% longer than the owners anticipated before needing to be repaved, a testament to the quality of work and materials for which Rieth-Riley had become known. The 80s also saw trend-setting evolution in the Rieth-Riley organization. The company had transitioned from Albert Rieth to the Sons in the 40s and grown to be a major player in Midwestern road and bridge technology and construction. But now it was time to hand the reins of management to the next generation. In 1984, the first non-family president, Dale Capon, was elected president, and serious attention was given to just how the company should be structured to best face the future. Many options were explored, but it was determined best to sell to the employees under an Employee Stock Ownership Plan, or ESOP. In 1985, 50% of Rieth-Riley was sold to employees, one of the first of this kind of ownership in the construction industry. The ESOP spurred additional changes, including the appointment of Bob McCormick as Vice President and Operations Manager in 1988. Bob was subsequently appointed President in 1993. In 1992, the employees bought the second half of the company from the Rieth family. Suddenly, the employees were solely responsible for the success of the company. It took several years for the ownership to get their footing, but once they did, a new era of success and growth took place. Not only on job sites, the employee owners now became concerned and involved in all areas of the company, from an employee voted to the board to participation over many aspects such as benefits and deferred compensation. It has truly evolved into an employee-owned organization.
Being an ESOP company, it has its advantages. If you're working for someone else, you might have a 401k. Here we have a chance with stock and other items. You have a lot of opportunities here. It makes us a strong company. Everybody puts in their 2 cents. That's what makes us successful.
Being an ESOP company, meaning that the employees are the actual owners and have a vested interest in the company and have a financial benefit at the end of the day when they do retire, it was more of a culture of a family-owned company, but the whole employee membership are the owners. Unlike a sole proprietor where you're working for one family and that family gets the benefit.
Once it was realized that profit growth was critical to the increase in ESOP value, the company began aggressively looking at ways to grow internally and via acquisition. Many of today's sites throughout Indiana and Michigan are a result of these efforts. Portable plants turned new markets into permanent locations. Aggregate sites were opened, along with other vertically integrated moves. Other significant management changes during the era were the appointment to president of Ron Pope in 2002 and Keith Rose in 2009. Each of these gentlemen have brought significant experience and insight into their roles and impacted the organization in their individual ways. Perhaps the most unique feature of Rieth-Riley today is the vested interest of all employees. The employee owners make daily decisions on how to do their job better, how to bid more creatively, how to build the job more efficiently, how to build with better materials or design, how to best schedule the work, and how to process records more efficiently. This attention to daily detail and commitment are what makes us successful and able to deliver projects on spec and on time. From its humble beginnings in Goshen, Indiana, to a large regional contractor with revenues exceeding $500 million, Rieth-Riley has successfully adjusted to changing market conditions for 100 years. Our company has truly been the evolution of one man's vision and the devotion and passion of its employees, from gravel roads to highways to bridges, through thin times, wars, depressions, and family tragedies. With hard work, innovation, foresight, and progressive management, Rieth-Riley has built a legacy for its people and a standard of excellence that excitedly leads to the next century. Building roads for the future.